With over 25 years' experience in the transportation industry, Chris Avery was previously President and CEO of Canadian North and First Air, and under his leadership, Canadian North was recognized as one of Canada's best managed companies and the Regional Airline of the Year in 2022. He's held management roles at WestJet, Alaska Airlines, Canadian Airlines, and other travel and transportation companies. He holds a Bachelor of Economics degree from Western University. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the brand new CEO from the Arctic Gateway Group, Mr. Chris Avery. Chris.
Excellent. Well, thank you for having me today. It's excited to be here, first time in Thompson, so thank you very much for that. I'm joined here today by Corey Young, our VP of Corporate Services. Corey is like, I've traveled in 6 weeks with Corey. For those of you who are old enough, it's like, Corey is like the king of Kensington, particularly in northern parts of Manitoba. Some of you will can't be pleasant, but some of you aren't. You know what? But I mean, he knows everyone, he stops and shakes hands with everyone. And you can't get ahead that far with Corey. Lena Johnson, I don't know if she's here. She's if you are here, she runs our operations here in Thompson, so a big part of our team here in Thompson. Just quickly before I get started on this presentation, as I was getting involved and learning more about the role and talking to Mike Spence, our chairman, and talking to the committee about this role, I did my research and I looked around and I saw a lot of videos, I saw Minister Taylor, I saw other people, I saw premiers, past and present, I saw ministers, and the common theme of all that was that Chuck Davidson was an MC in many of those events. And so I said to myself, I'm a new Manitoban, by the way, so I said to myself, I made it when Chuck Davidson introduces me, so not sure if that's the case today, but anyway, that was the thinking in my head as we went through this. All right, I'll get into the presentation now. Slide, please. Just want to acknowledge where our operations is. We operate in the Treaty 5 and Treaty 1 territories. Our shareholder members and communities reside throughout Treaty 1, Treaty 5, Treaty 6, Treaty 10 territories, the original lands of the Cree, Dene, Ojibwe, Oji-Cree, the homeland of the Métis Nation, and the ancestral territory of the Inuit. So today I'll go through our ownership group. I'll talk about our ownership group. I'll talk about what we've done to date and some of the operations update of what's been going on, and then talk about the future where we see the Arctic Gateway Group going forward. So this is our purpose. There's a lot of words there, but I'll take it as three things. There are three things in mind that come to my mind as we look at our purpose. The first part is we're proudly Indigenous and community-owned. The second part is we're building a transportation corridor that's connecting Western Canada to the rest of the world through Manitoba and Port Churchill. So I think I just talked about that already, but that's what we're doing. That's our mission. We're building that. And the third part is that the economic value and the opportunities are coming back to our communities and to our shareholders. So that's the third part. And that's an important part of our overall mission. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. So this is our ownership structure. And maybe I'll talk a little bit about the background for those of you who don't know. The Hudson Bay Railway and the Port of Churchill was previously owned by CN. And back, I think it's 96, it was sold to American interests based in Denver. And so over that period, the railway operated the port. Probably didn't care as much about reinvestment into the infrastructure, into the railway, and into the port. Certainly less vested in Canada, less vested in Manitoba, and certainly less vested in northern Manitoba. So fast forward to 2016, I believe, where a flood washed out the Hudson Bay Railway and cut off all the communities in northern Manitoba that were connected to the railway, but also cut off parts of Nunavut, which relied on the Port of Churchill for resupply and so on. The US company refused to reinvest in the railway and fix the railway. Essentially held the community, the province, and Canada hostage without asking for more money to fix the railway that they've been profiting from for years. So fast forward to today, with the support of the government of Canada and the support of the government of Manitoba, here, this is the ownership we have here today. We're wholly owned by One North, and One North is owned by a consortium of Indigenous and community ownership where we operate, also Indigenous communities across Manitoba, and we've also reserved 10% share for the Inuit community in Nunavut, particularly the Gill Valley region. So Arctic Gateway as a whole is owned wholly by One North, and we own and operate the Port of Churchill, the Hudson Bay Railway, and the Hudson Bay, Churchill Marine Tank Farm. So that's our background. And similar to Professor Prentice here, here's our operations. We're Canada's only deep sea Arctic seaport with land access to the rest of Canada. So as we put this together, what I really noticed there is look at the amount of sea coverage in the north that Canada has. And we don't have Churchill is the only Arctic seaport in the north of Canada. We will provide direct connections to international markets. So as Professor Prentice said, if prairies were a country, this would be our seaport. And by building that seaport out to the rest of the world, we're truly making Manitoba a maritime province by building the seaport. We're also a gateway to Nunavut. We're a natural gateway to Nunavut, providing a direct line for supplies to Nunavut in terms of access, in terms of speed, efficiency, costs, but speed is also a very important part of that as well. So our assets, we have the Port of Churchill, as we talked about. We have 4 deep sea ports. First, in the port, Hudson Bay Railway, which connects from the Paw up to Churchill, and then connects down through to the Class 1 railways with CN and CP. We have over 1,000 kilometers of track, and then we also have the Churchill Marine Tank Farm. So I'll give you an update of where we've been and what we've been doing this past couple of years. So capital programs to date, we've had significant improvements in our track quality index, and this is a measurement of how well our track is doing in terms of where it should be sitting, how level it should be, how straight it should be. And so I would say right now, we've increased the track quality index across our entire network to the level higher than it's ever been, and to the standards of the southern parts of our tracks. We made substantial upgrades to the railway, including railway tie replacements, ballast rock foundation, leveling, as I talked about, and bridge repairs and bridge replacements. So what does this all mean? It means that the travel time between the Paw and Churchill has been reduced by 2.5 hours, which is approximately 10%. So that's time. The other piece of the time is reliability. Aside from the time is the reliability and the safety of the railway. And for railway geeks, so some stats here. Over 300,000 railway ties have been replaced in the last 12 years. And if you think about the railway ties and how heavy they are, we've moved and replaced over 300,000 of them. We've resurfaced over 5 million feet of the railway. We've carried over 6,000 cars of ballast rock. That's over 500,000 tons of ballast rock. And something I learned about in this new role is that we actually produce a lot of ballast rock ourselves. And some of it's done in Churchill, some of it's done in other places. So we're actually big owners of rock. But that rock provides a solid foundation for our railway. We've also replaced bridges in our network and also fixed and refurbish bridges in our network as well. So this is just a visual of one of the bridges that we've replaced. This is in Portage, just south, I think, of Thompson, close to here. This is one of the bridges that we've replaced here. And then we're also applying technology. So earlier we talked about technology and that the world is changing. Certainly the world is changing from the point of view of global warming, but the world is also changing from the point of view of technology. So we're using more technology in terms of managing and operating our railway. So some examples of that include drone inspections of our railway line. We can do that more efficiently with the technology that we have today. We can also potentially in the future apply artificial intelligence to help us monitor the railway line and really identify in advance where there may be problems in the future. So that's where technology can help us. Another example of that on the right here is that we have ground penetrating radars mounted to our locomotives. So that will give us real-time information of what the ground looks like under the rails at any time as the train goes over the railway ties. So using technology to better understand where we operate and using technology to better operate our railway. So that's the rail line, and that was our first focus. The immediate focus with the support of the government of Manitoba and the government of Canada, we worked towards diligently and methodically securing the rail line, making sure it's reliable, efficient, and safe. And we feel pretty good about where we're going. We still have work to do on that. Our next step is really focusing on the port. As I talked about with the American interests before, both the railway and the port were essentially neglected for 40 years. So if you sort of think about your home, you think about the roads in your communities, if you don't do anything to them for 40 years, you got a big job to come into when you want to go and refurbish them, and you're living in a pretty rundown place. So this is what we're dealing with. We have got there with the railway, and now we're focused more on the port of Churchill. So maybe back one for a second. This ship here is the Alaska Board. This was taken just in August. Mr. Naylor was up there for the sailing, for the loading, for the arrival of this ship. We got on hugging terms there, but that's a different story. But the Alaska Board is here. It was, and maybe the next slide is getting ahead of myself. So that's loading zinc onto the Alaska Board. So this zinc was mined in Manitoba with Hud Bay, mined in Manitoba, transported up to the Port of Churchill on the Hudson Bay Railway, and loaded in the Port of Churchill onto this vessel bound through Europe. So all within Manitoba. And this is just the start of what we're doing. So this was 10,000 tons of zinc concentrate that was mined in Manitoba. So this is a picture of what we'd set out to load the vessel. Next slide, please. So in terms of activities at the port, the zinc concentrate, as we said, that was bound for Antwerp, Belgium. That's the start. So critical minerals is a big part of our future, and that was the start of it. We also, this season, will have 3 resupply ships come into the Port of Churchill, and those resupply ships will load up with building materials, people's cars and trucks, other dry goods, and they will head up to Nunavut and resupply Nunavut. And in future years, we'll continue to expect cruise ships coming into the port. Churchill is a world-class tourism destination, and we expect to have more cruise ships there. And we're continuing to look at the port, as I talked about, in terms of what is required in terms of investments to get it back up to the level that we need it to be, again, after 40 years of neglect. So this talks about our shipping season. And what we're doing is we're partnering with the University of Manitoba and the Earth the Observation Science Center. So what this does for us is helps us work and partner with academia and have proper research and proper data to really understand, independently, really understand what is happening with global warming, what is happening with our shipping lanes, and when we can operate. And what that does is it informs our shippers, it informs our customers, it informs the insurers who insure our shippers with independent and quantified data on what is happening in the shipping lanes and when we can safely operate, and with and without icebreakers. And as part of that, the university will also work with environmental groups, with indigenous communities, and consult with the communities that live in the area, so that we have a full independent look and a view of our operations. And more recently, we were just, I think it was last week, we were up in Churchill for the opening of the Churchill Marine Observation Center. Churchill Marine Observatory. It's quite a building. It's you see there on the left there. All that opens up, so they can keep it covered, and then all that opens up to simulate real life environments in the port and in the bay. So there are neighbors at the port, and we believe that partnering with academia and really understanding what is happening in the environment is good for business, and it's good for industry, and it's good for the communities who live there, and it's good for the environment. So it's a win-win situation, and we're very close partners with the University of Manitoba on this. So the future, this picture was taken by one of our drones. You see here the last report. This is when the last report left for Europe. So it's on its way out to Europe right now. And then there were some cloud covers that day that sort of muddied the picture here. But it's a great picture because that's kind of the first export of minerals out of the port of Churchill ever. So. Thank you. And we expect that to be the first of many, so it's a great milestone. So in terms of our vision for the future, it's we expect the port to be a mix of a diversified mix of commodities that we will handle at the port. In the short term, we talked about critical minerals. So we've been in discussions with a number of companies, including Hud Bay on minerals. You saw the potash, we saw the zinc that we shipped out. We're in conversations with them about zinc, potentially copper, and other critical minerals. We'll continue to have conversations with a number of organizations with regards to agricultural products, whether it's grain or other products there. And then resupply as well. We still believe that Manitoba is positioned very well to support Nunavut. It's a direct line to Nunavut, and it makes a ton of sense. And one of the best stories I heard was in talking to some members of the Valley community. They were telling me that, back in the day when Churchill was there, and housing supplies were shipped up on the rail, and then from the port of Churchill up to the community, they would get their supplies in the summer to build a home in the summer. They would finish by Christmas, people would move in by Christmas, and they would get paid by Christmas. Because if you're tradespeople, you don't get paid until the job is done, or you don't get paid fully until the job is done. So everything's done by Christmas. What they tell me today is, because everything has to go around, the map is up there, you remember the map from Montreal, everything has to go around. It's almost sometimes like being on the last stop on the shuttle bus when you're going to the hotel, right? From the airport. It's by the time they get the building supplies, they don't finish the homes until the spring. So people don't move into their homes until the spring. People don't get paid until the spring. So aside from the directness of Manitoba to Nunavut and being close and being more And then in the midterm and longer term, as others have talked about, potash is a possibility, a container port for export, and container ports and other import materials can come in through the Port of Churchill. Does it make sense? The geography makes sense going out, and the geography makes sense coming in. And then certainly longer term, other energy sources, green hydrogen, LNG, and other potentials for the Port of Churchill. So as Premier has talked about, having hydrogen produced in Manitoba, shipped to global markets through the Port of Churchill. What a vision! And I think that's huge. It's not the immediate term. It's not going to happen quickly. But as you look around, and I come from the airline business, so many companies and organizations have net zero emission commitments, and pretty much all large organizations have that. If you think about that globally, hydrogen can be a huge possibility, but that's welcome to the future. We're focused right now on the short and medium term, and because that's what we are beachhead, and then the possibilities are endless beyond that. And then last slide. Last slide is a little wordy, but I'll go through it quickly. So what are the benefits of the Arctic Gateway Group and the Port of Churchill and Hudson Bay Railway? The reduced shipping time and cost to get to market. It's a direct line from Western Canada, the vast resources of Western Canada, to global markets. And like I said, it's also, that works in reverse too. It's also a direct line for products to come in. We enhance Canada's supply chain network. For a country as large as Canada, and with a country with as much sea border to the north, it makes sense for us to have a northern seaboard. And it wasn't that long ago, in 2021, BC was cut off by floods, and the Port of Vancouver was completely cut off from the rest of the country. So to have optionalities in terms of seaport for a country as big as Canada makes total sense. Now, we'll never replace the Port of Vancouver, we'll never replace the Port of Montreal, but that optionality just makes sense for a country the size of ours. And for sure there's going to be other natural disasters, other external shocks that will happen. We have a unique Indigenous and community ownership structure that ensures that we reinvest back into the community. So that's key. We reinvest in such a way that we're creating northern jobs and creating northern Indigenous jobs as part of this process as we grow. So the unique structure leads to advancing Indigenous economic reconciliation. Certainly, not the least of all is connection to northern Manitoba communities. This rail line connects many northern Manitoba communities, and frankly, connects Canada to a world-class tourism destination by land that people from around the world come to see. So finally, multi-use. We expect this to be a multi-use facility, and it serves our rights and our sovereignties in the north by having this infrastructure. This infrastructure is available, connecting the south of Canada by rail, so goods can go, any goods, including military goods, can go up to the north, and the port can supply the north and other parts as well. We expect this to, in our plans, to support over $1 billion of economic activity across Canada, direct and indirect, and we expect it to support over 5,500 jobs across Canada once we've completed what we've set out to do in the next 4 or 5 years. So these are the reasons why it makes sense for us, and this is what we're working towards. Thank you for your time today. It's been a pleasure for me to share what we've done today, and then share where we're going. So thank you for that.